Let's please welcome Kesi!
Let's go! Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me okay? Amazing, amazing. So my name is Kesi Neblett, and like he said, I am from Russellville, Kentucky. And I'm so excited to be here today because I love coming home. There is something about driving past the town square that's like not actually a square, but it's a circle that makes me feel so warm inside. And then there's something about hearing Southern accents that always makes me feel so nostalgic. But before I begin today, I actually need your help with something because I have traveled far and wide. I've been to 6 of the 7 continents, and there's one question that people always ask me, and it usually goes a little something like this. They'll say, "Oh, you're from Kentucky," and I'll say, "Yeah, I'm from Kentucky," and then next they'll say, "Like the chicken?" I'm like, "Okay, sure, like the chicken," and then they ask me, "Oh my God, I love KFC. Do people in Kentucky actually love KFC?" So that's where I'm stuck, and that's where I need your help. So if you like KFC, on a count of 3, I want you to yell at the top of your lungs, "Yes." Are we ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And if you do not like KFC, I want you to yell at the top of your lungs, "No," on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, okay, I think we have our answer. People in Kentucky don't really like KFC. So the next time I travel, I'll make sure to know how to answer that question. Alrighty. So I didn't come here today to talk to you about chicken. I came here today to talk to you about a phone call that changed my life. And this phone call that I got asked me if I would be a spy. And this is how the conversation went. I answered the phone, and Netflix tells me, "We're shooting a new show called The Mole, and The Mole contains 1 spy and 11 other players, and we would like you to be the spy, and your code name is also The Mole." And so the first question I asked is, what is The Mole? And so Netflix explained The Mole is a show where they send 12 people to Australia to complete a series of 10 challenges. Every challenge that gets completed successfully adds tens of thousands of dollars to the prize pot, and at the end of the show, there will be one winner who wins the entire prize. So then I say, all right, well, if I'm the spy or the mole, like, what's my job? And so they say, your job as the mole is to secretly sabotage every challenge so that the players fail, but you can't let them find out who you are. I'm like, okay, this sounds kind of intense, maybe a little diabolical as well. And then I say, well, then how does someone win the game? And so Netflix explains, after every challenge, each player has to take a test. And on this test, there are a series of 20 questions, and these questions could be something like, who do you think the mole is? Where do you think the mole is from? And what was the mole wearing today? And the person with the lowest score on the test gets eliminated, sent home, and does not win any prize money. At the end of the 10 challenges, there will be only 2 people left, the mole and the winner. And the winner is the person who's able to successfully identify who the mole is. And so I sat on the phone and I thought to myself, I've never done this before. Sounds like I have to lie a lot. But like a crazy woman, I said yes. And so today we're gonna talk about lessons from being a spy and the things I learned from being the mole about accomplishing your mission successfully. So the first thing about accomplishing a mission, especially when you're a spy, is understanding what your mission is. I've never been a spy before in my entire life. I had no idea what I was doing. But I had 2 weeks to prepare before we started filming in Australia. And during those 2 weeks, I spent a lot of time reading numerous novels and watching numerous television shows about espionage. I researched a lot of articles about what it means to be an actress, what it means to understand psychology and sociology. And what I learned from that research is one really powerful thing, that when you're a spy, you can take on two strategies. Your first option is to be completely undetectable. And to be completely undetectable means that you do things and no one knows that it's you because they can't see it happening. Now, I couldn't take this strategy because we're filming a television show. There's only 12 people and there's cameras everywhere. But my next option was I could be detectable but unacceptable. And what that means is you can be a spy that actually does all their dirty work in the wide open for everyone to see. But the trick is you create a persona for yourself, a narrative for yourself that's so powerful that even though people are watching you sabotage, they still don't believe that you could be the bad guy. And that's the type of spy I needed to become. The next step in doing your research and understanding your mission is finding a command. And what a command is a person that understands your missions better than you do. And my command was amazing. So the 2 weeks I had to prepare before we were filmed, I met with my command every day. And he explained to me every single one of the 10 missions that I would have to perform. And what's really cool about a command is not only do they help you prepare, they also secretly find ways to meet with you before every single challenge. So a lot of times I would go to the bathroom, think that I was alone, and find that my command was just in a stall next door and had information for me. Other times, I would simply be getting into a car, thinking I was going to an appointment, and it would be the command in the driver's seat, also secretly passing me information. And the last step in your preparation is actually establishing a strategy. And so when I established a strategy for being the mole, my first step was to build trust and make a great first impression. If I was going to sabotage in the wide open, I needed people to trust me and to be willing to believe that it was with good intention. The second step to my strategy was I didn't know these 11 other players, and I really had to learn them and listen and observe very quickly to understand who they were. And lastly, I told myself I needed to be able to adapt. When you're in the field as a spy, anything could happen. So I needed to be flexible and realize that sometimes I would have to change my behaviors. The next step in being the mole is establishing informants. What happens when you're in the field can be very, very unexpected, and you might not know what you're going to encounter. But what is really helpful is having informants that can give you information about the other players. And there are 3 types of informants that are really, really important. There's the calculator. The calculator is that person that knows the logistical details and formulas of very specific tasks. And so the first calculator that I met when I was filming The Mole was a guy. He was a lawyer who had figured out a specific strategy for taking the test. And he explained to me that if you memorize the questions from the test, know approximately all the information about each player and how they would answer that test, and if you knew the last person that got eliminated and who they voted for, then you could determine this probability of who the mole could be. It was pretty profound. I would never have thought of that. But I'm glad he told me because I was the mole, and I used that to my advantage to spread rumors throughout the players. The next type of informant that you can have is the collaborator. And collaborators are really fun. Because once you know that a person shares your common interest and you guys have the same goal, normally the collaborator is really, really excited to make plans with you and scheme with you. And lastly is the gossiper. Everyone has that one friend that knows everyone's business, right? But these people, although they can cause a lot of chaos, they can be really helpful because they know what's going on and they love to talk about it. The trick is sometimes the gossiper needs a little intel from you before they start spilling the beans. So be smart. Make sure you only tell the gossiper things that you want them to know because everyone else is going to know what you said. The next step in being the mole for Netflix is understanding that you will have moments where people will try to blow your cover. And people will start suspecting you, and they'll start challenging you. So what do you do when you're in the hot seat? You really have to be able to keep your cool. And so the first time that I was in the hot seat, my team had just completed a bank robbery mission. And so our purpose was we walked into a room of thousands and thousands of vaults. And our task was to find which vaults had gold in them. Now, when you have 1,000 vaults, you can't just open every single one. You don't have time. So we also found that we had a book of codes. And if you were able to determine that pattern on that code book, you would understand which vaults you were supposed to open. Now, ironically, my team chose me to be the person that read the code book. So obviously you know what happened. I completely didn't find the pattern, and we walked out of this mission with no money, and we completely failed it. And so that night at dinner, one of the players was very suspicious of me. And they said, I don't believe that you weren't able to figure out the patterns, and I believe that you are the mole. And she said this in front of everyone. And so I sat there, and I took a deep breath, and I gave the speech of my life. And I explained how disappointed I was in myself, and how I couldn't believe that I let my team down, and that I am an engineer, and I know how to figure things out, but something about the nerves had really just gotten to me. And what I found is that after that dinner, and after a speech of sincerity, no one suspected me to be the mole. The last important step of being a spy is understanding that you can have multiple disguises. And sometimes you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you're going to encounter obstacles. But you really have to be able to adapt and roll with the punches. So how do you pivot? When I was the mole, in the beginning, my strategy was to be very apologetic for my behavior. I'm so sorry I messed that up. I'm so sorry that I didn't do that well. But by the end, in the Final Four, I realized that when you're in the Final Four, people already think they know who the mole is. And it just so happened people still didn't think I was the spy. And when people have so much belief in themselves and so much certainty about their suspicions, it gave me a lot of freedom to do whatever I wanted, because I knew they still wouldn't believe me. So by the end, I was very obvious and very blatant. I would do things, and I wouldn't even apologize for them. I'd be like, yep, I did that on purpose, and people still wouldn't accept it. And so what I found is that once you gather more information, be willing to change your strategy. Be willing to do something a little bit different than the way you started. So in conclusion, why does this matter? Does anyone here want to be a spy? And then again, being a spy on Netflix is not the same as being a spy in real life. But why this is important is that my first mission in my life was not on Netflix. My first mission in life was to be an engineer and to play volleyball competitively. And that is the journey that I put my life on to accomplish. But it wasn't easy, and it took a lot of steps, and I overcame a lot of obstacles. And each of you will have missions in your life as well. And I think if you remember these steps, you'll understand that if you build your team, have people to be your command, your informants. You are able to keep your cool when people try to challenge what your mission is. And also you keep an open mind that you adapt when you encounter obstacles or need to change your strategy. That it's not just about being a spy and accomplishing a spy mission. It's about being who you are in life and accomplishing the mission for yourself. Thank you so much. My name is Kesi Neblett, and enjoy Ideas Festival.
Thank you, Kesi.